everyone, and welcome back to The People vs. OJ Simpson, American Crime Story by The Verdict's Then. I'm your host, Nicole.
I'm Gary.
And today we are talking about The People vs. OJ Simpson, American Crime Story, Season 1, Episode 10, the season finale for this story.
Yep.
First off, before we get into it, I would like to apologize.
Yeah.
The season finale came on about a week ago.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we were on spring break with our kids, and we even did podcasting during that week. We did about 3 podcasts, and there was just really no way to bring this one in. So we apologize. It's unprofessional, but we did watch the episode, and we loved it, right?
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
Really good, really intense, I would say.
Yeah, I enjoyed the beginning more than the end.
I thought it went really fast. Like, when it was almost over, I was like, it's over? It seems so quick.
It was, but I'm saying that the beginning, it's like we already know it's going to happen. We already lived through it. Now we got to actually sit there and watch it again. And they did such a good job leading up to it. Because even though we knew what the verdict was going to be, we're still like, oh, man, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I looked at Gary and I was like, oh, my gosh, my heart's pounding. I'm getting excited, even though I know what they're gonna say. It was still exciting,
right? But my sadness toward the end came from, after the verdict, it was just a lot of emotions in the courtroom. You see a lot of emotions on people's faces. They showed the Oprah special, showed people outside, showed everybody. It's just hard to know how to feel in that moment, because there's people that's very happy, but then there's people that's very sad.
Right. It did seem pretty divided. So
it was just a lot of emotions going. It was just sad to watch.
It was sad, and as I believe I mentioned earlier on, maybe in the first episode that we did when we covered this show, that I can see how they felt, even though for me, that story, I remember it happening, but I was a child, so it wasn't, it didn't weigh heavy on me. But when I think of this story and I think of how people think of the injustice that they feel happen, I cannot help but think of the Casey Anthony story. And it's almost that same way when I was looking at this, because for the longest time, I was like, that bitch is guilty. She killed her daughter. And it was no way you can tell me otherwise. I don't care if they didn't convict her of it. There's nothing that could stop me from thinking that. But now when we watch this and you kind of hear the jurors talk about it and how some were so strong on, you're not going to convince me otherwise that he is guilty, or some of the jurors that saying like, look at all the evidence, it does make me start to go, okay, I'm not going to go as far as saying this girl didn't do it. I still feel like she should be in jail because she failed as a parent. She failed as a human being to take care of that little girl. But I do feel that if they couldn't find enough evidence to say for sure she did it, I kind of see what they did in the OJ case, where maybe there was some evidence, something seemed a little sketchy, but it wasn't no 100% proof. So now I can see that, I can kind of pull myself back and go, I can see sort of how she got off, but I still probably am one of those people that feel like, when they have that opinion, whether it's the OJ case or the Casey Anthony case, they have that opinion, and that probably never...
Any case.
Yeah,
if you feel strongly about something, you're going to feel that strongly about it no matter what happens.
Right. But it was very emotional seeing, especially Ron Goldman's family. And I mean, people died either way. Someone needs to pay for it, and no one did.
Right.
All right, but we get the episode. It starts off, OJ's getting nice and clean. He's getting dressed up. We see him. He has a nice suit on. He's getting ready for his last day in court.
Yeah, this all took place in, what, a year?
A year. It was about, I think, 11 months, I think.
Okay.
Now, we learned 2 things here. Johnny's been getting death threats.
Yeah, they say he had 20.
20 death threats. Now, I wonder if these are 20 death threats that it's just random people. I mean, because in the day of social media, I can only imagine how many he would have now.
Right.
Anybody can write to him. So I wonder if these were legitimate death threats where they really were going to do something, or it's just someone that had nothing else better to do and just wrote a death threat.
Well, a death threat is a death threat. You got to take it serious.
Yeah, definitely.
If somebody said they're going to do you bodily harm, it's time to wake up, open your eyes, and try to protect yourself or get protection around you.
Right, right. But one thing I like, and we'll get to that more when we get to that scene, but Johnny, he's I don't want to say slick, but he's smooth. I'll say he's very smooth. Because when OJ says he wants to make a statement and Marcia Clark is trying to get him not to make that statement or get the judge not to allow it, Johnny was like, is this still America? Can we still talk? I was like, dude, I'm going to use that one. Like, that was so good. Like, you know it. I mean, he knew what he was saying, what he was doing. But it was funny.
Well, she said he manipulated the system the whole time.
Yeah.
Which you could say he did, but you could say, I mean, he was being honest.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We see what Johnny, he played a lot on race. He played a lot on politics. He played a lot on wealth and stuff like that. Now, whether he did it as playing the game or whether he did it because he honestly felt this way, no one will know.
Well, we already know he was a part of the civil rights movement. He fought a lot of cases dealing with police brutality, police injustice, a lot of systematic cases. He's been in the forefront of a lot of them. And he was even part of the Michael Jackson case, wasn't he?
Was he?
Yeah.
Wait, was it after this or before this?
I think it was after.
Okay, I didn't know that. Because I know Michael Jackson had a couple cases, so.
Yeah, but he was a part of that also. So I think that in order for him to be a part of all these cases, not really, well, he was worried about the death threats, but he didn't seem as concerned as the rest of the people. So you could tell that this is something that he do.
This is his passion.
Yeah.
Okay. We get the closing remarks, and there's a few points that Marcia makes as well as Chris Darden makes that I don't know if they didn't mention it before or if we just didn't catch it. But one of them was talking about, Marcia Clark just hearing all the times that all the times that OJ beat her and how many times the police were called. I don't know if it was her or Chris. They mentioned how she had a safe deposit box that had police reports and death threats and even a will. Like, she predicted that he was going to kill her. Like, she feared for her life from this man. Now, it still doesn't mean that he's guilty, but that's some strong evidence. I don't know if I was on the jury, I could just turn my eye from all of this.
You're right. That's a lot of evidence. But it makes me wonder, was this brought up already? Because there's a lot of things that she said and Chris said that we just didn't hear. I mean, there was already strong evidence. It was strong going both ways, regardless. I wonder if they would have put all that out there that we heard at the end and spend less time on some other things that, I mean, I guess everything matter, but only certain things going to hold your attention.
Right.
I mean, people, we only get affected by the flash, the boom, the pow, what's happening now, what we heard that was, because you saw when Johnny Cochran, I can't remember what he said, but you see the jurors sit up in their seat, all of them set up. You know, it's like they were leaned over, like, oh man, you know, we have to go through another day of this.
Right.
And then something was said, and people start sitting up. They were all ears. And I don't think that the prosecution gave us enough of that. They didn't give enough of attention-grabbing information.
I agree.
Or the way they put their information.
It wasn't clear.
Know. Yeah, it wasn't clear.
Because we did mention how that in that professional or the expert on DNA, he was sounding a little confusing. Then Marcia had to kind of wheel him back in and say, what you're saying is no one else's in the world, pretty much 1 out of 70 million people's blood, our DNA matches that DNA or whatever the statistics were. And
even after she reeled him back in, he got off the stand and gonna shake some hands, high five people.
Right.
Dude, I'll talk to you later, man.
All right. Now, one thing that they did say in the closing arguments, again, I don't know if I heard before, because you're like, no, they didn't say that. I had to rewind it. I'm like, hold on, let's listen to it again. They said that OJ's blood, his blood was on Ron Goldman's shirt. No, his hair.
They say his hair was on the shirt.
And then even you were like, well, maybe it was, what'd you say? Maybe it was OJ's shirt and Ron
Yeah.
Goldman borrowed it, like an old shirt.
I was saying, what if Ron Goldman was just really leaving there and she said, put the shirt on?
Yeah, I cannot help but if it was like my family member and I'm hearing all this evidence stacked and then the person gets off, I don't know how, like, I would be like how Ron Goldman's family was.
Be furious.
Yeah, like, hold on, like, how do you not convict this person? Because, like, how do you explain that? We justified so many things, but how do you explain that his hair was on Ron Goldman's shirt? And then we never get to see, that's another thing we never really get to see. We never see Johnny or any of OJ's team lawyers question him about certain things. Like, even in private. Like, hey, OJ, are those your gloves? Do you recognize those gloves? Like, they never ask him that. Well, we never see them ask him those questions.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we really didn't get to see, so we don't know if it really happened or not. I mean, they could have. Well, I'm pretty sure that if OJ was guilty, they wouldn't want to know. Don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. So that's maybe why they didn't ask him a lot of questions or a couple of questions, because they didn't want to turn out to be like OJ's homeboy, his friend.
Robert Kardashian.
Yeah. Like Robert Kardashian, he just, speaking of Robert Kardashian, we really didn't see him have much of an impact on this case.
Not at all. Like, did he just get paid to sit there?
It seems like it. You know, I guess they didn't want to go through the emotions like Robert Kardashian. Robert Kardashian went through the emotions. He didn't believe OJ after the blood.
Right.
I think he even questioned before then, didn't he?
Yeah, he questioned it, and then once it was like a shadow of doubt or no shadow of doubt or whatever, he was like, okay, he did it. There was no way he can keep turning a blind side to the stuff that was coming up, the evidence that was coming up.
Right.
Now, we do get Johnny's famous closing remarks, and he says, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. And
right.
He repeats it several times, putting it in their head. And I like later when we see the juror, they're doing their deliberations and everything. One of them was like, it did kind of fit. And that's what I kind of felt. When I looked at it, I'm like, it fit enough. It was not like it was a grown man trying on a kid glove. It was not that big of a difference.
Yeah. You're right.
So to me, it was that the glove not fitting, quote unquote, was not so strong to where it's like, oh my gosh, it doesn't fit him.
Well, it was kind of big. I mean, that means he was really uncomfortable doing this crime. I don't know.
But then what about the video images or pictures she showed us him wearing gloves?
Wearing a black leather glove?
Yeah, but...
that I have in my closet? That my father had in his closet?
No, but why wouldn't we... If that was the case, we never heard OJ's people say, hey, here's his gloves, or here are those gloves he had. Like, we never heard them. The only thing they said was if it doesn't fit. They never actually said these aren't his gloves.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like, it seemed like they never really denied that.
Well, the reason I bring that up, because that's an argument that can be made. That they say, well, here he is with these gloves, extra large or whatever. The argument can be made that a lot of people have leather gloves. I had a lot of leather gloves growing up. And all of them look the same. All of them look like that. So just because they showed a picture with him, they could probably show 10, 15, hundreds, let's say hundreds of football players when they're out there giving their little interview or broadcasting with leather gloves look just like that.
No, that's true. But in this case, these aren't just any leather gloves. These are particular leather gloves where that same brand, that same make and model, they have a receipt showing Nicole bought those gloves. So it's not even like, oh, these are just any old regular leather gloves.
No, I'm saying that the gloves they brought to court could be the same, maker, same brand. But you couldn't tell what brand he was when he was holding a microphone.
Okay. Well, we see them all leave, and they're all making plans to go on vacation, because I guess they thought it was going to be like a month or at least a few weeks before the juror came back with a verdict.
Right.
And as soon as they start showing this, I was like, ooh, I cannot wait to see how soon the juror came back, because, of course, I know what they came back with, but I didn't know how soon after the final talk they came back.
Yeah, it was short.
It was very short. It turns out to be 4 hours. And then they even mentioned that technically it wasn't really 4 hours because they had lunch, they probably went to the bathroom, filling out paperwork took an hour. To me, they were probably done.
done within the first 30 minutes.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but it was interesting to see the arguments in there. Because while, yes, there's an argument, there's so much evidence, but then there are so many arguments breaking down evidence.
I really enjoyed that.
The one thing about our justice system that can be a gift and it can be a curse is that you have to find a person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That means that there can't be any doubt in your head that this person couldn't have done this crime. And I feel like OJ's defense put a lot of doubt in their head. I feel like the examples that they, like when they made him try on the glove, it put a lot of doubt. Mark Furman, put doubt in people's head who swore but now OJ's guilty to this day and time.
Right.
They had to kind of question it a little bit. So it was a lot of doubt. But what I say is a gift and a curse because, in some cases that don't really matter. They have no evidence and still find a person guilty. Like I said, it's a gift and curse because some people don't, pay attention to that small detail. And in some cases, that small detail could be taken a little out of hand. They like, okay, the two socks didn't match. He can't be guilty.
Right.
So.
I think that rule is a good rule, but it does show that some people don't take it seriously when you hear, or I'm not going to say don't take it seriously, but I don't think they take everything into consideration because when you hear about someone that's been in jail for 15 years and it turns out they were innocent, how did you find that person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt?
Right.
Something had to have come up during that case that said, maybe they didn't do it, but
yeah.
You were so gung-ho on convicting them, you still convicted them.
That's why I say it could be a gift and a curse.
Now, when you brought up Mark Furman, I like that because we kind of skipped over that, and I really liked how Marsha Clark brought Mark Furman up, and she didn't defend him in any way, and I thought that was good on her part. It seems like it was still just a little too late. The damage was done. He really screwed up their case to me. Like, he really had an impact on it.
Right.
But I'm glad she brought him up and was like, he's an asshole. He doesn't deserve to be a police officer. She didn't say an asshole, but that's what I'm calling him. No one deserves that. He's racist. But all of that being said, doesn't mean that we didn't prove that this man is guilty. So I felt really bad for her, and Chris Darden, both of them did such a good job acting because I really felt what they were going through.
Right. But speaking back on Mark Furman, he did a lot of damage. And we found out tonight that during a first argument or first fight, Mark Furman was one of the officers on the scene.
Yeah, yeah. So that's very suspicious.
Yeah, so this is weird. And I guess that's how Mark Furman know, like, oh, no, OJ live over here. Remember, that's what he said. Oh, I'll take you over there right now.
And maybe, I don't want to say Mark Furman planted evidence. Well, did he admit to planting evidence? Was it ever confirmed?
In so many words, he admitted.
Okay, well.
He could have said, no, I didn't plant any evidence.
Right.
I would have said no.
I would have said no, regardless. But maybe when we just said how people have their mind made up already. You see something, you're like, within 5 minutes of people hearing this case, most of the public had their minds made up whether they thought he was guilty, not guilty. So Mark Furman, being that he's gone to their house before on domestic violence, as soon as he saw Nicole dead, he's probably like, okay, I know who did it. Let's go check out OJ. He may not have said those exact words, but his mind was already willing towards a suspect.
Right.
But going back to the jury deliberations, I loved how they did a vote immediately, and they did it on paper, so no one is going to get, peer pressured into anything. But it was amazing. See, only 2 people thought he was guilty, and the rest did, according to the show. Yeah,
according to the show. The 4 hours, I wouldn't think anybody thought he was guilty.
Well, what I think changed it, and this is based on the show, what got them to do it so fast is several of the jurors, after they talked about, hey, there was too many mess-ups, and he may have did it, but one of them said he may have did it, but they didn't prove it for a fact, which is true. Like, that's the whole part of our justice system. You have to prove it for a fact. There's so many things where we see cases where, like, man, that person's guilty, but you can't go on cases and convict people on intuition or your gut feeling.
Emotion.
And that's what Marsha Clark said, not Marsha Clark, but the DA, he said the juries voted emotionally rather than with responsibly, but we'll get to that. But I love when several of the jurors said, there is nothing that can convince me that he did it. And I love this because when we were talking to my mom, she remembers the case, of course, and Mom was like, I knew he did it as soon as I heard it. So there's some people that's already, their minds are made up. But she even said, she's like, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter if OJ stood up in court and confessed he did it. She's like, that juror was never going to convict him. And you know my mom. And I was like, okay, she's usually far on one side, her opinion, you know?
Yeah.
But seeing this scene and the juror saying, there's nothing that could convince me he did it.
No, he didn't say there's nothing to convince me that he did it. He said that they haven't proven it beyond a reasonable doubt. There's nothing that you could say.
I wrote down, you can never convince me that he did it. It still implies that...
well, I guess we got two different things out of it, because when a lady said that he may have did it, but they haven't proved it.
Okay, that's when the jurors were like...
That's when everybody ran around the room and said what they had to say. Okay.
Like, you can never prove? Are you saying that they said he can never prove that they did it?
They didn't prove. There's that they can say that says that they proved that he did it.
Okay, there's nothing that the other jurors can say
right.
to convince them that the prosecutors proved that he did it.
Right. That's what I got out of it. But you may be right.
Okay.
But the only reason I thought that is because, like the juror number one? Mm-hmm. Juror number one said that, hey, I may believe that he did it, but they haven't proven it.
Right. And I liked how one of the jurors said there was all that blood on Ron Goldman.
And all that blood on OJ, like the bloody gloves, the bloody socks.
But you only found a speck of blood in his car? Like, how did he get in his car and not get a whole bunch of blood everywhere? I mean, there is some things that make you question it. Doesn't mean that he's innocent, but it does make you question.
Right. There was a lot of things that made me question it. Like you said, it doesn't mean that he's innocent.
Right.
But the gloves was one thing. The Mark Furman was the other thing. And the car, because remember I said that from the beginning. When they found a speck of blood, like right above the doorknob, and then like two speck of blood inside the car, mm-hmm. like right by the ignition. And I said, hold up. I said, is that all the blood they found?
Right.
That was plain to me also.
Okay. Well, 4 hours later, we come back and they say they have a verdict. And as we see the dream team come together, they're going to ride together. But we see Johnny has private security. Apparently, it's people that's employed by Louis Farrakhan. Yes. Robert Shapiro was pissed off about this.
He still have an image to uphold.
And is it because, is it okay for me to say that Louis Farrakhan is kind of known to be... I want to choose my words rightly here. I don't want to say anything about this man, but he has a very strong opinion about some things when it comes to race and politics and equality. Yeah. Okay. So I can see why Robert was concerned, but at the same time, a verdict is already in. They're not going to all of a sudden change their mind, like, who did Johnny come with? So I felt that I didn't care. I mean, I didn't see why he cared that bad, but as you said, maybe it has not to do with the jurors. It has to do with the police officers and everyone else.
Yeah, it still have to do with his image. Because he still have to get cases after this. OJ case is not going to be his last case. Right. So he needs people to hire him. So it's still all about image to him. Or then again, I mean, he could just feel a certain way about Louis Farrakhan.
Right, because I think one of them made a joke. F. Lee Bailey said something about be quiet before we tell him you're Jewish or something. Yeah. So are they implying that he doesn't like Jewish people?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Okay. Well, we get OJ, he's in jail, and I think this was showing him the morning of, when he's shaving and everything and talking to the guard. Was this, like, supposed to be a flashback of him the morning of? Because if they just got out of court that day and the juror comes back 4 hours later, he wouldn't be shaving again.
Yeah, you're right.
So I thought it was, like, a flashback to the morning of, when the guy's like, hey, today's an important day because it was your final day. Your final day in court.
That's a good observation. I didn't think about that. But I know once we saw him in court again.
You were like, he did not shave.
I said, he did. He did not just get finished shaving. Right. There's no way possible.
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
There's nothing they could do to prove to me that he shaved
that morning. Okay. I thought it was very inappropriate, unprofessional, and I'm pretty sure it did not happen, but who knows. When the guard asks him to sign his football for his quote-unquote kid, and also told him, based on what he's been hearing from his other guard friends, that OJ has nothing to be nervous about. What do you think? Do you think any of that could have possibly happened?
I don't know. Because people are still human. Professional or unprofessional. We're all still human. We all do a lot of unprofessional stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But who would risk their job?
We all gossip a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, of course. But who would risk their job? Like, hey, OJ, sign. I mean, how would no one else see you bring a football into jail? Like, how you walking around? How you walking around a jail with a football in your hand? A nice, clean, never used football. Everyone's like, that's not. It doesn't say state, county, property of, such and such jail on it. They would know that that football doesn't belong. It wouldn't look like the used footballs. I mean, I'm overthinking it, but I was just like, come on, did that really happen? But who knows? All right, so we get the most intense scene of the night. I don't know why it was so intense because we knew the answer, but for some reason I was like, oh my gosh, here it comes. Like, I almost felt like OJ. My feet was ticking. Not really, but it was. I could understand what he was feeling because I was like, man, your life is about to be decided right now. Spoiler alert: all the things come back not guilty, and we get to see the reactions from people around the world.
Right.
I'm not sure if these were real reactions, like from real scenes.
Yeah.
They looked real.
Yeah, a lot of reactions were real.
Okay. And we see happy people. We see bad people that get mad.
We see happy people. We see sad people. We see straight irate people.
Right.
People arguing in the streets.
Now, as the jury leaves, one of the jurors, the black male juror that had said, nothing can convince me, whatever, he gives he puts his fist up in the air.
Right.
And you said that's black pride.
Right.
And of course, that's a sign of black pride, but I really need to go and look. Like, is there any way that you think that really happened?
I don't know. Like I said, people are people.
I mean, that has to be the most unprofessional thing you can possibly do. Like, who would do that? And then OJ looked like he didn't even know what that was. That's how they portrayed him. He looked like, what is that?
What is he doing to me?
Right. Why is he trying to fight me? Why does he have his fist at me? But I was like, man, I don't know if I believe that happened. And then we see Robert Kardashian throw up in the bathroom.
What you called it.
Yeah. I was like, maybe I have to go throw up. But I'd be sick to my stomach, too, if I know that someone just got off for double homicide. And I was actually on their side, helping defend them. Or showing my support for them. And then we see the prosecution people. They want to make a statement. Well, actually, they don't want to make a statement. And seeing that emotion that they were going through, oh my gosh, it was tough.
Yeah, they didn't want to make a statement. But it would look real bad if they didn't. I mean, they had all these people depending on them. A lot of people were rallying for them. And they couldn't come up with a conviction. So I think they owed it to the people. And plus, it's their job. That's a part of their job. That no matter if it's good or bad, they need to be out there in front of the people explaining what happened, where they thought it went wrong at, how they could do better next time. Which they did a lot of things wrong in this case.
Yeah, definitely. They can definitely see where their errors were. And Marsha, when she was like, I'm so ashamed I can only imagine what that did to her. I mean, she had a slam dunk case. And that's what she said. She's like, we had a slam dunk case. There was all this evidence. But, so I felt real bad for her, saying that, you know, how she was ashamed, how she was feeling, and she felt so horrible, her and Darden, for the family. And
yeah,
I love that her boss was like, you know what? You didn't play their game. And it kind of makes you think, you know, how they say all is fair in love and war. And would a trial like this be kind of considered war? So was it smart of her to play fair or play by the rules?
Well, she had a job to do. And I think she did her job to the best of her ability. But she should have stepped her ability up. Both of them. Because they already knew going in that it's hard to convict a celebrity. I mean, there's so many cases that we see that a celebrity, it was slam dunk cases, let's put it that way. And they just, and you know, I can name like 5 right now, but it's not their show.
Right.
So they already knew how hard it was going into it. So I believe they should have did a better job of working together. Listen to each other a little more. Because the things they didn't listen to each other about were the things that played the most damaging role in this case.
I agree. And when the other attorney got that health condition and they moved Chris up to second chair, I think getting a third person would have helped. I mean, the Dream Team had so many people.
Well, I'm pretty sure they had a lot of people also.
Yeah, I'm sure they had a lot of people, but they didn't have anyone else speaking and, you know, right there with them. It was just those two. Whereas OJ had a lot of support.
Yeah. But I think they had a lot of support, but their support played the background.
Right. So do you think the outcome could have been different with different attorneys, or you don't think it was necessarily her fault or Chris's fault that it happened? It would have happened regardless.
You're right with the first one. I think that, well, I don't know. That's a tough question. Because I do believe that they could have did a better job. But who's to say if they did a better job that the outcome would have been any different?
Right.
Who's to say without those flaws and mix-ups, the jury wouldn't have came to the same decision? Because it's easy for us now, and looking back at it, saying what we would have said, what they should have did different. There's a, like, and this is what I keep bringing up. I brought this up like a couple of shows so far. If I wanted to convict OJ, if I was a prosecutor, I would have brought up the movie he was studying to be a Marine or something.
Yeah, whatever he was studying, learning knives.
Like special forces. So, you know, he learned what the knife is, learned little techniques, little kung fu moves, whatever.
Right.
I can say they played with integrity, Marsha and Chris. But, you know, sometimes, you know, when the glove didn't fit, they should have forced it on. Because you see one side, they're playing to win at all costs. And the other side, they want to win. They feel they already have a win. But they're not putting that extra effort in. Because you see Johnny Cochran and, you know, just not even him, just the whole team. They went the extra mile. Even Shapiro. He went over there and tried on the gloves.
With his bare hands.
With his bare hands. He went over there and tried the gloves on. So they all went the extra mile. And I'm pretty sure if Chris would have took the time and tried the glove on, he'd probably be like, oh, hell no. Can he fit my hand?
Right.
We see, what's the other guy name who went to North Carolina with Johnny?
F. Lee Bailey.
F. Lee Bailey. I don't know how I forgot that. That's a cool name.
Yeah, it is.
But, you know, we see them go down there just to get the information on a detective. So they just went the extra mile. It's like they wanted to win. They wanted it more.
Right.
And then again, you can also argue, and I know I'm talking a lot, but you can also argue that it's easier defending somebody than it is prosecuting. When you're prosecuting, you have to find all this information. When you're defending somebody, all you have to do is say why that information don't make any sense.
Right.
So your job is not as hard as theirs. Your only job is to say, oh, nope, that's not going to work. This could have happened this way.
Right. No, I agree. And I love when Marsha Clark gave her statement to the press, and she's like, hopefully this verdict does not discourage victims of domestic violence. Because she's like, this was a domestic violence case. On one end, yes, but it only is a domestic violence case if OJ did it. If he didn't do it, then it was not had nothing to do with domestic violence. It could have been a drug case. It could have been a robbery case.
Right.
But I do like that she brought up that, hey, women, that if you're watching this now, don't let this discourage you from coming forward.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
And then at the end, we see Ron Goldman's family say, what's next?
But before we get there, we see the reporter say, so are you going to look for the real killer?
Yeah, which I have to see. I want to look up facts and see if that happened. Because to me, that was unprofessional. And it was the wrong time to say it.
I think it was the right time to say it. That was probably his only opportunity. I mean, that's his job. Like I say, everybody there have a job to do.
Yeah, but did he really expect
he's in
an answer?
I'm pretty sure he was hoping to get one. And even if he didn't get an answer, whichever company he worked for, whichever news channel or newspaper, he got the credit for asking that question regardless, or just putting that out there.
Yeah.
So that was just something else for them to write about.
Okay. Like, so-and-so from WDZZ, whatever.
Right.
Or this paper asked that question, and then they're having that conversation about it.
Right. They could say, like, all the news channels say, we asked the tough questions.
Right. All right. Well, this is a very good season.
It was.
Very good. I mean, it's sad because it's so hard to say very good because we are talking about a real-life case where two people were brutally murdered. So, but they did a really good job. They kept it entertaining. It was quick. They didn't drag it out. 10 episodes was a good amount. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people enjoyed it.
Yes. Everywhere I've seen nothing but just great reviews. Great reviews.
They did an excellent job with it. And
as we said, Gary and I will go and look at any news feeds and documentaries and all that stuff we can look at.
Right.
Look at the real case, and we'll come back and give our official opinion.
Yes.
On the People vs. OJ, the real case. Or what's his name? Oretholo? Oretholo. Did the lady really mess up, like in real life? Is that why they had her mess up on the show?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure she did.
But we will be back. Hopefully we'll record this weekend or sometime soon.
Yeah.
And our plan is to record as soon as possible.
Right.
And just look at the case and do everything like that.
Find as many facts as we can.
Right.
And just give we already gave our review of this show, of American Crime, People vs. OJ. And it was an excellent show. It was well cast. When we first seen the cast, we was like, oh man, this is going to be on some other level, some Lifetime. I'm not saying anything wrong with Lifetime, but y'all understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's going to be on like a Lifetime level. But it was actually very, very, very well written. The actors did a great job. This was a great show.
I agree. And from what I read online, it looks like season 2 will be about Hurricane Katrina.
Yes.
So if and when they do a season 2 of American Crime Story, Gary and I will probably go ahead and record it as well. And we'll probably have it on the same feed, the Verdicts In feed. Usually we do like to get a show their own feed if they have more than one season. So we'll see. But if anything else all fails, it would be on the Verdicts In feed.
Right. If anything changes, we'd let you know.
Yep. So thank you guys so much for listening. We will have one more episode just talking about the real case. Short episode. Give you our thoughts of it. Our thoughts on it. Guilty, not guilty. Yep. The verdict will be in. The verdict will be in. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening. I'm Nicole. I'm Gary. Good night.